Hey Sebastian, thanks for choosing Surf Pro Techniques. I'm your host Chapin Cruder and I'll be your surf consultant today. In your email, you're asking in general for me just to analyze your technique and point out anything that I saw you could work on. You're also saying that sometimes you weren't really happy with your stance and then that you were just really working on frontside turns, hoping to make them more radical and aggressive. After going through all your footage, I have to say I'm really impressed with your technique. Your technique is usually excellent in when you're executing a turn or doing some kind of maneuver. You have really good quality technique. There are a few things, however, I did notice that I think I'd like to point out and discuss with you that I think will take your surfing in a new direction. You already noted that you're not super happy with your stance all the time, and I can see why after going through all your footage. When you execute a turn, a lot of times your front foot is too far forward on the surfboard, which would imply that so is your back foot. So what I suggest before you attempt any turn or maneuver, you really make sure that your feet are in the right spot on your surfboard. And in some of the clips, you do a good job of adjusting those feet. But for example, in this clip, I have a feeling that you didn't execute the turn in the way you had hoped. And the reason behind that is that your feet were too far forward on the surfboard. So with that said, I'd like to note and point out that it seems that whenever you take off on a wave, you're always in the same gear, meaning that you only have one gear, and that is go, 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 go as fast as you can. And there's, of course, always a time for that, especially when you didn't quite take off in the right position and you have to get around a section, so you have to just go, get up and go as fast as you can. But in the types of waves that you're surfing in Costa Rica with long lefts, long rights, you really actually have a lot of time to correct your feet, choose the right section to apply the right type of turn. For example, if you want to go more vertical, spot the section where you know you can go more vertical. If you want to round out your turn, round it out on the right section. If you're going to float a section, pick the right section to float on. Because right now your upper body technique is great for doing all types of turns. I think you have perfect technique. What's holding you back probably the most right now is your stance and adjusting your feet in critical moments to do a top turn, to execute it in the way that you would like. So really what I'm saying is to slow everything down and start to become very conscious of your foot placement on the surfboard, because right now I think more times than not your front foot's a little bit too far up on the surfboard. So I think it's going to be really important to become more aware and more conscious of moving your feet farther back on the surfboard before you attempt to do a turn. Where you're choosing to do that turn and the type of technique you're applying to that type of turn, I think you'll really start to notice a huge difference in the radicalness of your turns. Because if you apply your technique to the perfect spot on the wave for that type of turn, your turn will get exponentially more radical when you see it on film. So what I'll do now is I'll take you through the footage that you sent and point out the moments where you executed your turn in the perfect spot versus other times where you should have probably applied a different turn to that spot or not even attempted a turn at all. Now here on this wave, your technique's amazing. Your backside upper body movements are right where they should be. That lead arm is dropping down by your butt, and you're coming around with that front arm really well, coming up to the top, executing that top turn, I think flawlessly. I don't really have anything bad to say about it. I'd say maybe bend your knees a little bit more on the bottom portion of that turn, because as you can see, the chop is affecting you. So by bending your knees more, you're going to get a lower center of gravity, and that's going to help you break through that chop and make it a little bit cleaner. But you did a great job there when you kicked out. Now for these next two turns, it goes back to what I was saying earlier, where your stance is too far forward on the surfboard to execute that type of turn. So if you move your front foot and back foot back on the surfboard about 1/8 of an inch, you're going to notice a huge difference on both of those turns. So for that first turn, I would have tried to hit that whitewater and gone a little bit more vertical. And for the second turn, I probably would have stayed a little bit more compact and just done a little check turn to set myself up for another turn down the line a little bit. Now you might be questioning what's a right turn and what's the perfect section to the right turn and who gets to decide that. Well, ultimately you do, and you're right, there's not necessarily a perfect turn for every single section because it's your canvas and you get to paint it however you want. But there definitely are higher success rates of you pulling off maneuver if you choose to do that maneuver at the right portion of the wave. This next wave is a great example of you choosing the right section to do the right turn with the right technique. This is executed absolutely perfectly. I love the way you set up, you spotted the section, your approach was perfect, the timing in which you started the turn was perfect, your upper body was perfect. Everything about that turn was absolutely flawless, including your feet, which you can tell you adjusted after you popped up. So in summary, what I'd like you to do is really focus on calming your mind right before you take off, popping up, setting your feet in the right position on the board, which means as of now, I believe your stance is a little bit too far forward. So get that front foot a little farther back and probably your back foot a little farther back, and use the same technique that you're using because it's really good in your upper body, and start really focusing on approaching each section knowing that it's the right place to do that type of top turn, which you have the right technique for, and just really getting comfortable with choosing the correct sections to execute these types of turns. I hope that helps, Sebastian. Thank you for choosing Surf Pro Techniques. If you need help with anything else, please let me know, and I'll see you next time.